All right, let's dive right in, shall we? Today we're going deep on learning English as a beginner.
Sounds good.
You guys gave us a really cool mix of stuff to work with this time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've got like articles and guides from experts and even some stories from people who've, successfully learned English as a second language.
Awesome.
So we're going to dig through it all and try to find the most valuable tips for you guys.
Awesome. And what's so interesting to me is that, uh, going through all this material,
Yeah.
a lot of it seems to be like suggesting that a holistic approach is really important here.
Okay, so not just like memorizing grammar rules.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's more about like fully immersing yourself in the language.
So how do we actually do that? I mean, where do you even begin?
Well, I think a good place to start is by thinking about the foundation.
Okay, so like building a house, you need a solid base.
Exactly. And a lot of these sources are like really emphasizing that. Like starting with basic vocabulary and grammar is super important.
Okay, so what does that look like practically?
Well, it's like you can actually start communicating in English pretty quickly if you focus on the right things.
And what are those right things?
So, for example, there's this awesome resource, I think it was in the stack you guys sent over,
Okay, yeah.
that it basically lists out like the top 100 most common English words.
Okay.
And the idea is if you focus on learning those first, you'll be able to like understand and create really basic sentences, really quickly.
Okay, that makes sense. So instead of like getting overwhelmed by this huge ocean of vocabulary,
Exactly.
you're focusing on the words that you'll actually use. Like,
Every day.
yes, absolutely. Work smarter, not harder kind of thing.
Exactly. Work smarter, not harder. And along with, vocabulary, another really important piece of the puzzle is understanding like basic sentence structure.
Hmm.
So like, for instance, like a really simple sentence like, I eat an apple.
Okay.
That follows a pretty basic subject, verb, object structure.
Yeah.
And so if you can grasp these kind of fundamental building blocks, it'll really help you as you start to like understand and create more complex sentences later on.
Okay, so we've kind of laid the groundwork with vocabulary and grammar.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I noticed that really stood out to me in all this research is this focus on learning through media.
Oh, absolutely.
Have you personally, have you found this to be an effective method?
Oh, 100%. Engaging with English media, like it's one of the best things you can do for your listening and speaking skills.
I guess it makes sense. It's how we all learned our native languages.
Exactly. Think about it. You learned your first language through like constantly hearing it and interacting with it.
Right.
And so when you immerse yourself in English through things like movies and TV shows and podcasts and music, you're basically recreating that natural learning environment.
It's kind of like training your ears without even realizing you're studying, right?
Right. Exactly.
And think about like how many times you hear a catchy song and it just gets stuck in your head.
Right. Exactly.
That's basically like a sneaky vocabulary lesson.
Exactly. And the key here is to be an active listener, right? Like you don't want to just be passively watching or listening.
Okay.
You really want to like pay attention to the pronunciation and the intonation and the new words that you're hearing.
Okay.
And even try to like mimic what you hear. It's like training your ear and your tongue to work together.
Okay. And speaking of practice, we can't forget about like the real world interaction part of things.
Right.
In your research, you mentioned language exchange programs and conversation clubs.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Yeah, definitely. So language exchange programs, basically what they do is they connect you with native English speakers who are trying to learn your language.
It's like a win-win.
Exactly.
Great.
Exactly. So you both spend like, time speaking in each other's languages and you kind of help each other learn and practice.
Yeah.
And then conversation clubs are like a little bit more informal.
Okay.
It's basically just, gatherings where people come together to practice speaking English.
Cool.
And both of these options are like amazing opportunities to really build your confidence and your fluency in a supportive environment.
So it's kind of like taking what you've learned from the movies and the music and then like putting it into action in a real conversation.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about how reading and writing can also help accelerate your learning.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You might be surprised how much these skills can actually help with your overall English.
Absolutely. And, reading especially, it exposes you to a much wider range of vocabulary and grammar structures.
Okay.
So, a good place to start is with simpler texts.
So what does that mean? Like, what kind of simpler texts?
So, things like children's books or what are called graded raters.
Okay.
And then as you progress, you can gradually, challenge yourself with more and more complex material.
So you kind of like level up as you go.
Exactly. It's like leveling up in a game. Each book you finish unlocks like a new level of understanding.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, really.
And, it's not just about like reading for comprehension either, right?
No, not at all.
You can actually pick up new vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
You can see how the grammar rules are actually used in real sentences.
Mm-hmm.
You can even improve your own writing style by like paying attention to how authors are crafting their sentences.
Oh, that's a great point. And speaking of writing, like regular practice with writing is also really, really important.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to make mistakes. Like that's part of the process.
Yeah, that's how you learn.
Exactly. Exactly. So you can start with something really simple.
Okay.
Like journaling or just writing, short emails to friends.
Sure.
And then as you start to feel more confident, you can like branch out and maybe try writing essays or even short stories.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. I mean, we talked about building that strong foundation, immersing yourself in the language, practicing actively, and then using reading and writing to really take things to the next level.
Mm.
But where do you actually start? I mean, there's so many resources out there.
Yeah.
There's apps, there's online courses, flashcards. I mean, it can feel really overwhelming.
Oh, absolutely. It's easy to get overwhelmed with all the options.
Right, exactly.
But the key, like the really important thing is to be strategic about it
Okay.
and to find what works best for you.
So not trying to do everything at once.
No, exactly. Exactly. Like choose maybe a couple resources that really align with your learning style and then like use them consistently.
Okay, so like if I'm a very visual learner, flashcards might be helpful.
Exactly. Exactly.
But if I'm someone who enjoys more interactive stuff, then maybe a language learning app would be a better fit.
Exactly.
Well-
And don't forget about the, the good old-fashioned methods too.
Yeah.
Like, textbooks and workbooks. Like those can be really great for just getting that structured practice with grammar and vocabulary. It's
Yeah.
like it's all about finding that balance.
Okay, so I guess to kind of wrap things up here,
Yeah.
what does all this mean for someone who is just starting out on their English learning journey?
I mean, the great thing is you have a roadmap now.
Yeah.
The path to fluency might be challenging at times, but with dedication and like the right approach, I truly believe anyone can achieve their goal.
Yeah, and that's so encouraging to hear that.
And remember, enjoying the process is so important. Like if you can find ways to make learning fun and engaging, you're way more likely to stick with it.
I love that. And, as we wrap up here, I just want to leave you with a final thought.
Okay.
Think about why you're learning English.
Mm.
Like, what doors will it open for you? What amazing possibilities will it unlock?
Yeah.
Let that motivation fuel your journey.
I love it.
Until next time, happy learning.
Bye.
Bye.